When I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That ain't true. That's what you just heard. Since day one of Donald Trump's presidency, prices are not down, they're up. Inflation is getting worse, not better. The prices of groceries, gas, housing, eggs, of essentials is not getting better, it's getting worse. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has done nothing. Goose eggs to lower prices for you. Instead, he's pardoned violent criminals who savagely beat police officers on January 6th. That's an effing disgrace. He's letting Elon Musk take a chainsaw to vital government programs and then, even worse, giving him access to Americans' most sensitive data. Social security numbers, tax returns, healthcare bills.
That's right, gang. You're watching Democrat Senators Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren posting identical videos, word for word, with the exact same script in anticipation of Trump's speech tonight before the joint session of Congress. Now, of course, this was embarrassing. I mean, they're both trying to come across as if they're authentic, as if they were taking some time out to talk with their voters, their own constituents. As it turns out, this is nothing more than scripted talking points put together by someone else other than these two senators. But then, as the day went on today, things took a turn for the worst. It started with 2, but then it turned to 3.
True, that's what you just heard. Since day one of Donald Trump's presidency, prices are not down, they're up. Inflation is getting worse, not better. The prices of groceries, gas, housing, eggs, of essentials.
And just when you thought 3 Democrat senators saying the same thing was bad enough, well,
I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That's right, gang. You are actually seeing and hearing that. That is not a Saturday Night Live script. These are 22 Democrat senators all literally reading off the exact same script. Now, the irony behind this stunt was that the Democrats actually just held a retreat. They were calling it their comeback retreat just last month as a post-mortem to try to figure out what they needed to do to make sure to avoid another shellacking like they got back in November. And at the top of their list was that they needed to be more authentic. I kid you not. They needed to be more authentic. They needed to more authentically connect with their voters, particularly working class voters with whom they have completely severed any disconnect. They have no connection with working class voters anymore. There's a disconnect that's centered on the Democrats' commitment to woke values that are shared by literally no one. So the Democrats apparently came out of that retreat encouraged to be more authentic in order to relate more organically with working class voters. And one of the things they do is they come up with this completely scripted, fabricated, choreographed messaging that literally landed with no one. I mean, it resonated with literally no one. CNN Scott Jennings caught it. He tweeted out how utterly embarrassing it was in light of what the Democrats' own advisors were telling them, that they needed to be more authentic. So, yes, we need to be more authentic. What does he say? We need more authenticity in our politicians. And then they put this up. Elon Musk, too, noticed the massive disconnect between the Democrats and voters, noting that we're now up to 22 Democrat senators all doing the exact same cringe video simultaneously. And then Elon offered to buy a Cybertruck for anyone who could provide proof of who actually wrote that particular piece of propaganda, as he called it. So the first person to post proof in the replies to this post gets the truck. Love it. Now, I'm so proud of our good friend Data Republican. She took up the challenge. You know, she's a data whiz, right? She's part of Doge. And she responded to Elon by first noting that the Senate Democratic Caucus operates a Senate Democratic Media Center, which serves as a one-stop shop for Democratic offices looking for high-level digital assets, providing video editors, studios, digital strategists for coordinated content. Now, Data Republican speculates that content was centrally developed, most likely under the direction of Senate Democrat leadership's communications arm, and then executed by the senator's communications staff in coordination. So Data Republican consulted AI, and the AI speculated that one specific person is most likely leading this. This is a fellow by the name of Justin Goodman. Justin Goodman is Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's former communications director. And what do you know? If you go to his website, his biography brags about him being the chief spokesman for every Senate battle in recent memory. So Data Republican may indeed have identified the one who wrote that embarrassing script. We'll have to see. And by the way, she's declined the Cybertruck. She's so awesome. She really just wants to get to the roots of this Democrat seediness and expose it for everyone to see. Now, keep in mind this scripted and frankly cringeworthy unison that we just heard from Democrat senators is not the first time we've seen something like this. For example, check this out.
Greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about the trouble and trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
the sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Yeah, creepy is what comes to my mind. Now, what's so fascinating about what we're seeing here, what's so revealing, is how what the Democrats just got caught doing and what you just saw these local media outlets routinely get caught doing reflects the dynamics behind a world known as managerialism. If you recall, we interviewed Orrin McIntyre on this, not too long ago, a couple of months ago. And he developed this concept of managerialism extensively in his book, The Total State. In a word, managerialism is a rule by elites, a sort of neo-feudalized rule by an aristocracy that controls and coordinates the whole of political and economic life. And in such a world, in such a social order, everything basically operates from top down. So all localized political control, any kind of local literal democracy has been eclipsed by a one-size-fits-all pyramid-like managerial elite. And what's so fascinating here with these 22 Democrat senators all getting caught reading off the same script is that in such a world, nothing is actually authentic. That's what's so fascinating. Everything is artificial. Everything is standardized. Everything is focus group tested. It's basically the key dynamic of corporatism. Standardization and consolidation become key to scale and mass control. And ironically, Democrat senators are themselves demonstrating this. We tend to think that they're the managerial elite, but ironically, these Democrat senators are demonstrating that they themselves are the objects of such standardized and managerialized control. So that's why I think Elon Musk wanted to find out who's really behind it all. But the other dynamic that's in play here is a counter dynamic to this managerialism, which is the rise of what scholars call technopopulism. We talk a lot about this phenomenon on our channel, but if you think about it, these Democrat senators and getting exposed the way they did, they basically got fact check. Same with these local news outlets. The legacy media outlets are constantly getting fact checked. Their antics are getting fact checked in real time. And this fact checking by a mass audience online is indicative of what scholars are calling technopopulism. So technopopulism involves the dynamic wherein technological innovations like the internet, or even more broadly, cryptocurrencies and the like, they're increasingly freeing populations from managerialist control, as exemplified most particularly by the legacy media there. So technopopulism arises out of what's called the network society, and that involves the kind of social order that emerges when internet-based technologies function as the organizational center of society. And the key to this new social order is that all the old gatekeepers of information, namely the media, again, more broadly, the universities, the think tanks, and the like, they no longer have a dominant foothold on what counts as knowledge and reliable information. And this is, of course, because of the rise of, with the rise of the internet, you and I are now able to share digital information with each other in a way that basically bypasses these old gatekeepers in a manner comparable to the way email and texting bypass the old post office. And so as a result, information has been radically democratized. It's been decentralized away from monopolistic institutions like the legacy media and managerialism more broadly understood. And it's now available to everyone through internet-based technologies. So what scholars are calling technopopulism is enabling more and more populations to basically emancipate themselves from the confines of the old liberal managerial structures. And as a result, we're now in a position to fact check the self-anointed fact checkers. This, I would argue, this is probably the key reason why the legacy media is imploding. Because as it turns out, it can't bear the scrutiny of millions upon millions of citizens armed with the same information that anyone at CNN has, fact-checking CNN. And as it turns out, the Democrat senators are running into the same embarrassment. The internet, comprised of millions of citizens online, will end up exposing your antics. The days of being able to hide behind the cover of the legacy media are over. And the Democrats are finding that out the hard way. And by the way, I think this is one of the reasons why Trump so obviously frustrates the legacy media. Because ever since, just going all the way back to his first campaign back in 2016, he's been a master at tapping into this rising techno-populist network society and bypassing the old informational gatekeepers who originally tried to box him out of the public conversation. All of this is to say, in my view, that the Democrats have a lot of catching up to do with this new program. This literally the new network-based social order that's rising has caught them totally off guard. And until they catch up, I have a feeling the Chuck Schumer, Elizabeth Warren embarrassments, frankly, are just getting started. You all know that I'm very passionate about the fact that we simply can't rescue our nation if we don't first take care of ourselves. And health actually starts with our livers. Now, if you think about it, we throw everything at our livers: cholesterol, alcohol, toxins, Tylenol, statins, cigarettes, you name it. That's why so many of us have a sluggish, fatty liver that makes us gain weight and lose energy. But thanks to today's sponsor, there's a very real solution. Liver Health Formula is an all-natural supplement which contains 12 clinically proven botanicals that help recharge and protect your liver. It's manufactured right here in the USA and approved by independent American doctors. And if you click on that link below right now, you can try Liver Health Formula and receive a free bottle of blood sugar formula when you order today. So don't let a fatty liver keep you sluggish and inactive. Gang, you know, for me, this is very, very personal. I myself recently lost over 60 pounds, and I can say it was one of the best decisions I ever made. So now it's your turn. Click on that link below or go to getliverhelp.com/Turley and claim your free bonus gift. That's getliverhelp.com/Turley.
So, I mean, we're trying to get good things done, but also, have a good time doing it. And and have like a sense of humor, So, I mean, the sort of the left wanted to make comedy illegal, Like you can't make fun of anything. So then it was like, comedy sucks. It's like, nothing's funny. You can't make fun of anything. It's like, legalize comedy. Yeah.
I love it. Legalize comedy. Well, you can see Elon Musk just touched on the recent radical transformation of the art of comedy over the last several years. The radical left has been on a relentless crusade against humor, declaring several comedians as enemies for not complying with their politically correct doctrine. And this has led to a landscape where laughter is silenced and comedic expression stifled, much to the detriment of social flourishing. Many Americans are feeling trapped in a cycle of over-censorship where even a simple joke can result in social media outrage and professional ruin. And this is a far cry from the left's previous stance on comedy. Ironically, they used to be very good at all of the arts and largely had a monopoly on comedy in particular. But recently, woke zealots have prioritized radical leftist policies at the expense of humor. And now people on the left simply are not and frankly cannot be funny. Ironically, many contemporary mainstream comedians lack the profound cultural insight that's always historically been at the heart of comedy, going all the way back to the classical Athenian tradition, or they're just too afraid to call out anything woke. So who's behind this alarming, very anti-cultural trend? And what can we do not only to save the integrity of culture, but smile as we do it? Well, joining me today is one of my favorite comedians and influencers who's experienced these dynamics firsthand, Bridget Phetasy. You've seen Bridget she's been on a number of times on the Joe Rogan Show. She's the host of the Dumpster Fire, which you can check out and subscribe to by clicking on the link below. Bridget, welcome. Great to see you again.
Thank you for having me. It's so nice to be back.
Well, it's awesome having you. And I've really enjoyed watching your show ever since my sister introduced me to you. Like 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago or so. And you've been just doing awesome stuff. But I know you have a firsthand insight into how comedy has shifted over the last several years. And I think you've experienced some backlash from your work. Can you give us a little bit of a little bio here in terms of how you've encountered the vitriol of the woke?
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting. I don't know that I experienced it as badly as other people did. What happened to me was even more insidious in that I started self-censoring, which I think is more dangerous than anything. And I notice this now doing stand-up comedy. It's something really fascinating when you see people repressing a laugh, because there's something semi-automatic about it. It's not you really have to try to repress that laugh and keep it inside, even if you want to laugh but you feel like you shouldn't. That to me was such a sign of something weird and dangerous going on in that self-censoring time that we all lived through. I think it's much better. I was making fun of Elon actually on Dumpster Fire, being like, comedy is not illegal. Maybe in the UK it is. I mean, they're arresting people for memes over there, but I think in many instances, comedians, to their credit, held the line in this time that we all lived through, where it was very censorious and people were getting canceled and you couldn't joke. And I think it bullied people, whether it was overt or covert, or even just in that insidious way of the culture being going in one direction into this kind of approved message that turned into the approved jokes that you could make. This was when I first started noticing this was even happening, when I was on what was Twitter at the time, now X. And I noticed there were certain things. I was trying to become a writer in Hollywood. This was probably 2015 and 2014, 2015. And there were certain jokes that I would go to hit send and I would say, and I'd pause. And I was like, why am I and it was always a joke that was kind of taking aim at the left wing. This is probably really 2015 when things started getting very weird. Me Too, it really started getting weird. So 2013, 2014, but then we had Trump. Everybody was like, ha, 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 he's such an idiot. What a buffoon, a joker. And then he got the nomination and became literally Hitler overnight. Suddenly not so funny. And I was like, how is this guy that you guys used as fodder for all of your late night shows suddenly the existential threat that we're all supposed to be concerned about?
Right.
And noticing my own pause, noticing that hesitation was the first sign that something was amiss. Then I started making those jokes and I ended up not getting canceled, just friends of mine would unfollow me and people in the industry would unfollow me who I respected. I started.
And this is 2016, 2017?
Around then, yeah. And it kind of scared me off stage. This is something I really regret because I started getting very insecure about being around these people who were my peers and friends because I was this lone kind of, I wasn't saying anything that was really that transgressive. It was really just common sense, normie perspective that I felt
which is transgressive for a lot of people, maybe not so much anymore, but
yes. So I started saying that and my online audience started exploding, my offline audience started contracting, and there really was this crossroads where we also had management and I said, look, I can make these jokes and I can be honest and we'll just see what happens, or I can toe the line and I can try and get a job writing the approved jokes on a late night show and we'll be maybe able to get, as writers on a show. But I understood both of those things were not possible at the same time in that moment. And my cousin, who's my writing partner on a lot of the scripts, cousin Maggie, a lot of people will know her from Dumpster Fire. She was like, you're not going to be able to shut your mouth.
Impossible.
Even if you wanted to, you wouldn't be able to. So let it rip.
Well,
and
thank God for that.
Yeah. So here we are. I mean, I think when Elon was saying that, I understand why he says it. That was very true, but it was almost like 2019 to 2022 talking points in 2025 because all the guys I know who went against the grain and held the line are literally flying on private jets now. So they're doing fine.
Yeah, they're doing fine. And I even noticed that, like, even on YouTube, we can say now there's only 2 genders and things like that. There does seem to be a freedom here. As I'm saying this, now we get canceled. But there seems to be a freedom here that we just didn't have, right? I mean, I remember, I guess for me, I started really noticing it. I appreciate you bringing up the Me Too, because that's where definitely seems to have arisen. But after the George Floyd riots, it just seemed, so that would have been summer 2020. That's right in your timeline, 21 to 23 or so. That's just when it seems wokeness just went nuts. I mean, it broke, the dam broke, and we just got flooded with some of the most pathological personalities imaginable now kind of running us. And they ran the previous administration, because we don't even, Joe Biden lives literally 20 minutes away from me right now. And he was always home. I don't know if you know that, like 40% of the time, our traffic was always backed up because Secret Service was always bringing him back on a Thursday or a Friday. I mean, he was always here anyway. But yeah, it seems, you mentioned that comedians held the line, and you guys did, and God bless you for it. How did you stay resilient like that? You talk about the importance of resilience on your other podcast, Walk-ins Welcome. And again, the link's down below for everyone. How did comedians stay so resilient amidst all that backlash, that wokeness?
I mean, some of them, God bless Joe Rogan, because he was too big to fail already.
Yeah.
And I have said, had we not had somebody like that who could kind of single-handedly keep the Overton window from shutting completely, I don't know where we would be in a world without him. And then he was able to give the platform to a lot of other up and coming brilliant comedians who are now massive. Tim Dillon being one, Andrew Schultz, Shane Gillis, who did get very publicly, fired from SNL. I have a lot of respect for Shane because he didn't lean into that in a way that some people do. I think it's very easy to like lean in and kick the victim can and be like, I'm a victim now, I'm canceled, which I also I just don't like victimhood culture in general. So I think resisting that is very admirable. When
it would be giving into a kind of wokeness if you think about it, right? Yeah.
And he just, everybody was like, just keep being funny. And I do believe that loyalty is to the joke. That's, as a comedian, your job is to make fun of everything. Now, what ends up happening, and what's interesting about the time we live in, and this is almost a completely separate discussion, but this idea of audience capture. And so I feel my audience is very well trained. God bless them. I had somebody come up to me at an event just last week, and they gave me the absolute nicest compliment I've ever received, which is, I disagree with most of what you say, but because you're so joyful when you're saying it, I can still listen to you and enjoy listening to you. It's still very playful. And that's what I hope to be, is still playful, because it is very easy once you get kind of build an audience, say you're building an audience saying the transgressive or the counterculture thing. It's easy to start saying, oh, am I pausing on sending that tweet because I know my audience is going to get mad at me about it? So suddenly the pause starts happening again. And somebody very early in getting an audience online, I said, why does everybody think that I'm right wing? And it's A, because I was making fun of the left, which automatically makes you right wing.
Right.
But B, my friend pointed out, he said, it's not what you're saying, it's what you're not saying. And that has held so true. Yeah. So now, I mean, people are like, you tweet like you're just firing from the hip. And I truly do. If I'm pausing, it usually means I'm self-censoring for some reason. Sometimes good to pause, but sometimes it's because there's that part of me that goes, this isn't necessary. I know I'm going to hear it. I'm going to hear it. And I think you have to resist that as a comedian. It's your job to resist, to go into those uncomfortable places and to find those paradigms, to find the deeply held beliefs. It's as we say on our dumpster fire, it's like, we make burgers out of your sacred cows. That's what comedy should do. It should kind of take the piss out of everyone, including ourselves.
Yeah, it's going. I remember talking about this with my students when I used to teach classical literature, in the academy. It's when you go back to the classicists, Aristophanes and all. I mean, that's how they treated comedy. Comedy was you were able to make social critique in a way that only the comedian can do it. The politician can do it. The sociologist can do it. The parent can do it, but the comedian has a critique that only comedy can reveal, and it's just there's this wonderful. There's this play called Lysistrata where the men are all in the village are fighting a war, and the women want the war to end. And so they decide to go on a sex strike.
Yep.
And I don't know if you're familiar with it's just and the men cave. They do a Zelensky. I kind of think it's all right. I'm sorry. And but the joke is that in Athenian culture, it was always considered to be the men who were sexually controlled and the women who were sexually unbridled. And Aristophanes just turned that upside down. and said, we all know that's not true. We all know we're the ones with the concubines. But only Lisa Strada could only make, you can write an essay making that point, but nothing compares to comedy making that point. And so you're right. When you self-censor, you're not just stifling yourself, you're stifling us from being able to see society through new eyes.
Yeah. And also be affected. You were just talking about authenticity. When we're self-censoring and we're worrying about our brand and crafting all of our audience, all of the stuff that we've all become now that we're companies, basically, there is something that gets lost when in that authenticity. You can't think about being authentic. The minute you are aware of it, it's like meditation. The minute you're aware of it, it's gone.
You're not doing it anymore. Exactly.
Yeah. And self-censoring takes away from that. It robs people of your insecurity, of your mistakes. And a lot of this is because we live in a very unforgiving culture. The internet, for some reason, is eternal and also has the memory of a goldfish. It's a very strange, the internet never forgets, but also moves on immediately. We live in very, very weird times. It is, everybody just wants to be an influencer, and they're very concerned with their personal branding and what that all, it's almost like we have a very wealthy man wielding a chainsaw, kind of half running our country. It's a little bit as if somebody wrote a comedy of a dystopia.
Yes. Yeah, but that we wouldn't believe. We'd say, no, that's too much of a stretch. Yeah. The world's richest man running around with a chainsaw with the Argentinian president behind him going, yes, no one's going to believe that.
We were talking about this just yesterday. Remember when Zuckerberg and Elon were saying that they wanted to fight each other? And Dana White was going to organize it in the Coliseum. That's like an AI generated photo. If you saw that, you would be like, this is AI generated.
This is not happening.
It can't be real.
Exactly right. Yeah, but Zuckerberg apparently has been training. He's been hanging out with Dana White and all that. So I don't know, Elon. You may have to hire somebody else to fight for you. I don't know. But...
Bring in the lions. Yeah.
Bring in the lions. I'm curious if you still consider yourself politically homeless, because that's the way you've described yourself, as I understand it. We are living in a time, the way you're presenting it just reminded me of this British Pakistani scholar named Zayuddin Sardar, who refers to our time as post-normal. We're in a post-normal period. And what he meant by that is that we're in between like a massive paradigm shift. So an old world is kind of dying, like we talked about, sort of this liberal, industrialized, managerial world is sort of, it's dying. But a new world has yet to set new norms. So we're kind of in between a no longer, but a not yet. So nothing really makes a lot of sense. It's a really fascinating paradigm for understanding time today, but it does make things very ambiguous. So I was curious about you just politically now, where you are. You've talked about yourself being politically homeless. You certainly have no time for a lot of the shenanigans we're seeing on the left, but not necessarily all the shenanigans we're seeing on the right either. Can you, and then you did have, I really appreciated your video. I think I recommended it to our audience, your video on when you finally said, all right, that's it. I'm doing the unthinkable. I'm going Trump in 2024. And you gave a really awesome explanation as to why, being a new mother and being a single issue voter, of just trying to keep the lunacy away from your family, sort of mama bear sort of rising up. Where do you see yourself right now? And your audience too. A lot of the people who follow you, who are disaffected liberals for sure, but not necessarily on the MAGA train either. Where do you see yourself?
I mean, I'm getting what I voted for. I think that the border stuff has been great, and that was a big issue for me. I think it was very chaotic to let just hundreds of thousands of people stream into the country completely unchecked. Call me crazy. And I think most Americans felt that way. What I've been saying over and over again is we have all this trolling. We have Doge. We've joked on Dumpster Fire, this is troll in chief. And I think the right is doing their victory lap. They're very good at there's this idea that the left can't meme, and the right has managed to be kind of funny when it comes to the online mediums in particular. And what is the American tolerance for trolling, and when do they expect leadership? At a certain point, it's very early. I see a lot of people. This is I have so many thoughts about this, because what I've really come to realize, and what I am writing an essay about right now currently, and what I had to really face in myself, is that the kind of one of the foundational ideologies in America is but the right. There's no real extreme to the left that can get you canceled. There isn't really anything left wing extreme that you can say that will get you canceled. You can cheer a man for shooting somebody in Times Square. You can say you wished the president was assassinated publicly, and it will not cost you anything socially, and that is not the case on the right at all. There's a lot of you. So I think what's happened, and the reason I bring this up in regards to your question, is I've seen a lot of people from the center left in particular. We're not, we're 40 days in, and now the right has the mandate. They've taken some of that control. They're doing what they said they were going to do in many instances very openly. And the left is running to the left, and they're calling everyone on the right Nazis, and they're worrying about this rise of Nazis on the right. And now Elon is a Nazi. And it seems to me like this, and I get it, because coming from the left, I felt I always had to say, well, the left is mutilating children, but right, but Trump, but the right. It's like a knee-jerk reaction to criticizing the left. Except you can just run as far to the left as you want, and you move a centimeter to the right in any of the direction, and suddenly everyone freaks out. And now now this like the woke right is this thing, which I have a lot of issues with. And it's been 40 days, so I give the administration time. I've also been saying on the other, and again, something to add to that point, I think a lot of people in this weather vane kind of uniting of the Maha moms, the MAGA, the tech bros, the Elon stand, all of these weird people who are in this coalition, they're united for now. We'll see how long they are united. True. I'm not sure all of them, the people who held their nose and voted for Trump because they wanted to really make that statement about okay, you guys need to calm down. You've gone too far. You're out of your minds. We need to restore some common sense. Get the men out of the bathrooms in the prisons. Stop taking little kids through gender transitions, and let's close our borders, like basic stuff. And also the economy was a big one. If they can't, I don't know that a lot of those people actually really knew what they were signing up for, though, either. So
true.
They might not be comfortable with ICE, knocking on doors, and maybe didn't consider that. So we'll see how many of those people get kind of shaved off in this. And then there's the economy. if this administration cannot make life better for middle-class Americans in a material way, none of this will matter. It will not matter. We will just vote for someone else because who cares? I voted for Hillary Clinton, no one, and then Trump. And I am probably evidence that the 19th Amendment should be repealed. No, I'm just kidding.
That's going to be the new title of the video. Why the 19th Amendment should be reviewed by Bridget Fetisi. That's right.
You know what's funny is that I'll say that on stage and everyone blinks at me, and I'm like, "Who knows what the 19th Amendment is?"
Who knows what the 19th Amendment is? That's
none of you should be able to vote. Actually, no one should be able to vote. And there's always like one guy who knows, and I'm like, "Found the incel."
Yeah, bring up the monarchists or something, you know.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
So you mentioned this about the left, because I think you're right. I mean, one thing I noticed was how, at least as far as legacy media or just our sort of our establishment aristocratic culture is concerned, violating politically correct norms seems to justify violent behavior. Have you noticed that? I mean, so I'm thinking particularly of the U.S. Open match with Serena Williams when she was playing. Oh, I forget her name. The Japanese girl. And she kind of flipped out. It was in the final. She had a meltdown, and the referee, the umpire, took away a point because she was cheating. She was getting coaching from from the stands, and she had violated something, and so he took away a point. She flipped out, and she ended up losing. And then during the press conference afterward, she said that she was standing up for women's rights because that umpire would never have, who's a man, would never have done that. You would never have taken that point away if she were a man. And she was going to stand up for equality. And she got a standing ovation from the press pool. And when I try to make sense of that, when I look back at what they were applauding, if you go back, her verbal accosting of this umpire was so violent. It was so verbally violent. And then Billie Jean King came out and tweeted and said, "Yeah, you go, Serena, this was, I'm behind you 100%. This is sexism," and blah, blah. And a bunch of others came out. And that's kind of when it hit me. And I forget when this was, 2019, 2018. But that's when it sort of hit me. And then I saw it with Chris Cuomo, CNN, saying, whoever said protests had to be peaceful after the whole George Floyd thing. And it hit me when you violate politically correct norms, violence is allowed for these people. And that's where it seems to me that's where there is no limit. You could keep going left but if you're on the right and you violate, or in any way you violate politically correct norms, the left is allowed to go all the way with you. I mean, heck, we saw that with the healthcare executive with what's his name gunned him down, and then you had people saying, "Well, I kind of feel joyful right now," and you're kind of like, "Wow, this is kind of the mentality that it's so sacred. The sacred cows of the left are so sacred that if you violate them, they do get to literally physically harm you." It's crazy.
Bothersome to me because there's non-stop talk about the rhetoric. Oh, the rhetoric of violence, the rhetoric of this and the rhetoric of that on the right, but the right in their rhetoric. And then you say something like, "Oh, I wish that he had actually been, whatever, like that bullet hadn't missed." And there's no talk about the rhetoric. When you're literally, this was an actual turning point for me. And one of the reasons I voted for Trump was, and this is in this essay that I'm writing, because it was it struck me so much that I was sitting at a dinner and everybody was kind of drinking and whatnot. And this topic of it was right in the summer, right after the near assassination attempt. And this person was kind of joking about how a friend said something publicly and nearly got canceled. And then they were talking about how, basically, like, would I say that publicly? No, but do I feel it? Yes. It was kind of this joke at the table, and I didn't know where everybody even at the table stood. And it wasn't, when people are drinking and I'm sober, I'm like, I'm not getting into it. It's just not worth it.
Not worth it. No.
But it did strike me, you feel completely comfortable saying this in polite company. You don't care about America, because that would have been horrific if that, first of all, just the trauma from that being broadcast live to everyone who saw it, and then reverberating into eternity for us having to see that. So aside from that, then you have what would probably be a near civil war. At the very least, it would have been extremely tense and probably martial law. So in the immediate aftermath, the entire country would have been locked down. Now, none of this would have been good for America.
No.
You're also, from a very basic level, robbing people of the ability to make a choice. Even if it's not a choice you like, you're taking that from them. And you feel comfortable openly wishing death upon another human being, and you think you're the good guy. It was so crazy to me.
Very revealing.
It was also terrifying, because this is how you get a lot of good people doing horrible things. It was so chilling to me. I even get chills right now thinking about it. And I was like, you know what? This needs to be, even if my vote didn't matter in Texas, I wanted to be part of the popular vote. I wanted to be part of the people that were saying, I wanted to be counted as one of the people that was saying, no, you guys are out of your minds.
Yeah, you guys are out of your minds. Yep. Yeah. Now, I felt the same way. I'm in Delaware, so obviously my vote wasn't going to count. But I wanted to contribute to, like you said, to the popular vote as well. Yeah, it just seems to me, I mean, the reading I've done on wokeness, when all said and done, it is the sanctification of the victim. So, liberalism generally, historically, has been about emancipation, emancipating those who are seen as oppressed. And, historically, I mean, it was women, it was, blacks, it was slaves, and so on and so on. But then it just started getting kind of crazy. You get these sociological constructs that come out of, transvestite, lesbian, vampire. And all of a sudden, you're like, what the heck is going on here? But then it did seem to get to a point where, I guess the argument was that from almost this kind of quasi-Marxist perspective, that the only way you can measure whether or not these people have been liberated is if they are completely socially equal. So like the calendar is kind of recalibrated around them, and language is recalibrated around them, so that they're fully normalized. And so any kind of social critique, any kind of social criticism of them is seen as getting in the way of the healing and of the liberation, of the emancipation. And so there's a counterpoint to that, which is then you're allowed to shut those voices down. You're allowed to cancel them. You're allowed to excommunicate them, quite literally. And I mean, you just keep following that silencing sequence, then eventually you get something akin to July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania. We're going to permanently silence this guy. It's really, really scary stuff. But the starting point seems to be insane. Rather than sanctify our democracy or our norms or public discourse and so forth, we've sanctified sort of this caste system of people, and then anything that gets in the way of their liberation, we have the right to quell and destroy. That's scary stuff.
Yeah, and it's that it's very scary. It's I think victimhood too is very seductive. I've been saying this for a long time, and it's even just reading my grandfather's letters from World War II that he wrote home, which I read a lot because
Wow, that's cool.
this man had been bombed off of ships and he had lost friends and multiple warships had sunk from under his. It's crazy what he went through. He was in Pearl Harbor when the war started. He was in Japan when it ended. And this man would say, well, I don't want you guys to be a nervous stew about me. I don't want anyone to think that I'm here complaining. I'm like, no one has more of a right to be complain, and there's the whole tone of the letters is so different than the whole tone of our culture now, which I feel I'm guilty of this too, is very whiny just in general. And we're very entitled. We have so much. And it's easy to fall into that trap of being a victim no matter who you are. I think it's been now we can monetize it, which is even more dangerous. I think we all have to be careful about that because it can just as easily happen to any group of people who feel like now they're on the downside of the culture. You kind of, I think part of the reason I'm glad Trump did win is that people collectively looked around and said, oh, okay, normies didn't all lose their minds. There's still, I actually think it was evidence of the center holding in some respects. And so there wasn't this kind of, I was getting worried just because I started seeing kind of hints of it on the right, where you'd see it's more even in the manosphere where it's like men whining about feminism. And I'm like, this is so gross, guys. Like nothing is less manly than a guy blaming a woman for his like own failure or whatever. Like get a grip.
You gotta be patient with us, Bridget. We've been so emasculated over the last decade. We're trying to find our way back.
I mean, yes, this is the general tone, but I feel like men. A lot of people are like, oh, this is the brawligarchy or whatever they're calling it. And I think it is masculinity reasserting itself to a certain extent. Now, this could go too far in any direction and we're in trouble. We need the balance, the yin and the yang. We need the masculine and the feminine, and we'll see,
the moderation. Always everything in moderation, as the ancient Greeks would say. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think Rogan's done a great job with that. Or just even when Trump kind of walked into, walks into these UFC fights, at Madison Square Garden with RFK behind him and Tulsi and Tucker and all that, and Dana White. And the crowd's going crazy, and it's kind of like Caesar going into conquering Caesar going into the Colosseum. It's like, all right, the manhood is back. Good, it's hopefully a very good, healthy manhood, and in that sense, just more of its entertaining outworking. But there is something, I guess they call it a remythologization, where in times of social transition, oftentimes the old myths come back to try to find some balance again and find some security in the midst of all the craziness. So maybe that's what we're seeing with men as well. Where can people find? I could talk to you for hours, Bridget.
Anytime. I love talking to you too. You're such a wealth of information, and it's just always such a pleasure. You make me think more deeply about all of the things that I'm already thinking about. As you know, I write a column for Spectator, the magazine in print. They still exist. It's such a good magazine. I am honored to be a part of it. And I do a monthly column where I get to be satirical, or I think more seriously about these things. And it's funny how it can inform so much of the comedy and vice versa. And you can find me at we're really trying. I never do this, but we're really trying to hit 100,000 on our YouTube channel.
Yeah,
and
you're
so
getting
close.
there. I noticed that.
There.
You are getting really close. You're almost there.
We were throttled for so many years. And then right before this election, things just loosened up. Yeah. I know everyone will be surprised.
Yeah.
So we were, so many, there were, last year I almost gave up. I was like, you know what? We kept on pushing. Good. We kept on because we're resilient. So go find us at Bridget Fedesi is the dumpster fire. And then we took actually some of your guys' brilliant advice and separated Walk-Ins Welcome to its own channel. So it has its own algorithm and its own little place, and it's thriving over there.
Look at you talking the algorithm talk and all. Yeah, awesome.
We're learning.
We're learning. Yeah, we're all learning together, right? Yeah, gang, definitely click on the links below. Check out Bridget's YouTube channel. Let's get her to 100,000. Let's do it. Let's do it tonight. You guys would be on. That'd be a great way to celebrate. Check her also out on X too. You've got a great X handle there. Hundreds of thousands over there. Very insightful. I love your do we still call it tweeting? I think we still call it tweeting, right?
Excreting.
Excreting. Yeah. No, but I love your X handle. You post several times a day and very insightful commentary or
bread loaves.
I do. I'm telling you, I remember talking about this with my sister, because my sister and I were talking about sort of this just political realignment that's coming on. We have no idea what the realignment actually is, but there is definitely. This ain't the politics of Mitt Romney and Obama anymore. This world is changing dramatically. And I just remember coming across your channel, the dumpster fire in particular. I remember I was listening to it on like 2x speed, and when you would get to that, you look like a little mouse going,
like a little raccoon.
Yeah, like a little raccoon going through the dumpster. But I just remember saying, wow, this is somebody on the front lines of this realignment. This is impressive stuff. And I've followed you ever since. Love your work, and I encourage everyone else to follow Bridget as well. You will not be disappointed. Thanks, Bridget.
But they will be disappointed, and maybe you disagree with me, but hang in there. I will make you laugh occasionally.
And she will. Take my word for it. She will. She's amazing. Thank you, Bridget. You're awesome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Okay, come see us in Austin.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be out there. I think at the end of the month for a little conference out there. Yeah, we'll chat. That'll be great.
Okay, yay. All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. Hey, gang, we often talk about how we can maintain and build up the conservative way of life. And one crucial aspect of that is your routine. Staying strong physically, mentally. It's not just about living longer. It's about living better, which starts with a good night's sleep. Now, I've partnered with Beam because they're a health and wellness company that's put in the time and rigorous research to craft science-backed solutions that truly optimize every system in your body from the moment you wake up until you lay your head down to sleep. Now, I've been using Beam Dream every single night for a while now, and it has completely changed the way I sleep. The endless news cycles, the uncertainty about our future, the weight of it all. I gotta be honest, it gets to me. It left me tossing and turning for hours. I have a very hard time turning my brain off. But gang, seriously, I'm not kidding you. Since taking Dream, I literally crash at night. I fall asleep so fast, and I sleep deeply and soundly all throughout the night. Beam Dream is made with the highest quality sleep-promoting ingredients to help you unwind and get that deep sleep we all need and deserve. In fact, it's become a nightly ritual of mine that I look forward to each and every day. If I may make a suggestion, I love their brownie batter flavor. You gotta try it with a little cream in there. It's beautiful. Plus, I never wake up feeling groggy the next morning. I wake up feeling rested and ready to give my all, making a huge difference in how I show up every single day. Right now, you can save up to 35% off with my exclusive Beam discount. Just click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen and use code TURLEY at checkout. It's time to stop letting sleepless nights hold you back. Transform your sleep and your day with Dream because you deserve it. Gang, click on that link or scan that QR code right